On the agenda tonight, we're going back to the closing ceremony of the Olympic Games to take a look at Izar performing My Way. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So with this particular analysis, I have received a lot of requests to take a look at various performances from the opening ceremony, and with this one, the closing ceremony. We are going to be looking into it, and I feel like I should mention that if you don't want to know what was actually happening, then don't watch this video, because I'm going to tell you exactly what was happening objectively and showing you on screen. And by the way, the pronunciation of this artist's name, I'm just going with how it was pronounced on TV, which was like this.
Performed by Izar.
Izar. So hopefully that's accurate. I'll go with the TV. So I have isolated the vocal as always, run it through the pitch monitoring software so we can see what we can see. And I think at the beginning we do get a little bit of the strings that has bled into the isolated track. Let's have a listen. Yeah, I mean, even though it's a particular frequency which we can see, it's just flat of the B4. And ironically, this coming from a string section, as I always say, when you add in the human element, you're never going to be on these lines, even with a tuned instrument. This is somebody, or a collection of violinists hitting a note that is come across as being ever so slightly flat. So it means that a great singer would match this pitch. They wouldn't be singing on the B4. But anyway, let's get into this and have a listen.
And now the end is near.
I mean, immediately this vocal is so pristine and clear, considering that it is coming from a live performance. But we'll get into that in a second. What I did want to do is just take it back to when we get into this.
Performed by Izar.
There. I mean, you might have to turn this up. If you're listening to this on headphones, you can hear where they make the switch from the sound inside the stadium when it's getting played through the PA to then the studio track that's going to be, I've just ruined it for everybody, but yes, it's a pre-recorded studio track with a pre-recorded vocal and it is mimed. So have a listen to this again, listen carefully, because you might be able to hear just a slight change in the sound. It's almost like somebody's flicked a switch, which is exactly probably what they've done. But let's take it forward to this.
And now the end is near, and so I face the final curtain. My friend, I'll say it clear, I'll state my case, of which I'm certain. I've lived.
Okay, so there's our first offender really, this G3, where we heard it quite clearly being corrected to straight over that line, and we got that process sound to it as well. And by the way, you can see that she puts her hand over her ear in order to hear the backing track and the vocal, because now when we understand that not only, and this is another thing to bring up, not only is it a pre-recorded vocal on a backing track, it's a pre-recorded vocal recorded in a studio, of course, that's then been pitch corrected. So back in the day, probably the year 2000, even though pitch corrected vocals didn't really start becoming a mainstream thing until 2005, and then as the technology developed, it's now become a standard practice, an industry standard in the music industry to be applied to everything. But in this case, what we've got, which is different, and what we've got in the music industry now that is different to how it's ever been before, is back in the day, say for example, when we looked at Whitney Houston's performance of the US national anthem, she was miming, but she was miming to her own studio vocal, and it wasn't edited. So she'd gone in the studio, she'd recorded her voice, and now when she's miming to her voice. But now in 2024, you go in the studio and the vocal that you've produced, if you've missed a few notes, that's then changed with pitch correction so that you're miming along to a pitch corrected version of your voice. So it's not even really your voice. You didn't hit the notes where they are now sounding. It's a digital representation of your physical self. So this is what's happening now, that even miming has changed. It's not the same as it used to be. You used to have to be able to sing it in the studio. So yeah, it's just a really weird thing that in the industry we are going so far the other way, trying to get as far away from anything live as possible, that now a mimed vocal isn't just mimed anymore, it's a mimed pitch corrected vocal. Another huge thing to mention here is that on that video that I made on the opening ceremony, a lot of people commented saying everybody knows that the performances are going to be mimed, that they're pre-recorded, and not necessarily people know they're pitch corrected, but now you do know that. But the comments underneath this video and another video of this performance that I've seen, people obviously they really don't know. As much as people say everybody knows that it's mimed, I don't think everybody does know. I think a lot of people in the stadium thought this was actually happening, that they weren't just listening to effectively an MP3, just pressing play on the MP3 player. So I think it's important to mention, because when you've got comments underneath saying, oh, this is the most amazing performance I've ever seen, and, this is better than Frank Sinatra's version, all this kind of stuff, they're making that comparison thinking it's live. Because obviously Frank Sinatra didn't have the luxury of being able to mime to a pitch-corrected performance. I mean, I can't remember ever seeing him perform live or sing live, but actually mime. From what I've analysed on the channel, it's always been a live vocal, and it always was a live vocal with Frank Sinatra. So you can't really compare the two, but it's because people think that this is a live performance and that every note has been nailed. What I will say is that they haven't heavily pitch corrected this. It's just every now and again you hear where it corrects, like this G3. We'll go back and listen to that again. But you hear where the software is working, where somebody's had to drag it to the note because it maybe missed it by too much. So it stood out on that studio recording. So they thought, oh, well, we better get that exactly over the line because otherwise it was too far off the note. Have a listen again. And I don't know what it is about pitch correction, auto-tune, hitting A440 standard pitch right on the nose all the time. Why it sounds so weird. I mean, to my ears, I'm not sure everybody can hear this. It is so devoid of variation and it's so stuck on the G3. It really sticks out. I'll let this play on. And actually slid exactly up to that D4 on the line, which didn't help.
Life that's full, I traveled each and every highway and more, much more than this. I did it my way.
The other thing I'm just thinking is, if this were live, it's in a stadium full of people. So has everyone decided to not make any noise? Even when people are not making any noise, you can still hear noise of people talking. So listen to the fact that it is so quiet. And I mean, I know that we are listening to the isolated vocal, but actually we're not. I've just realised this has the backing on as well. So this is the full sound. So I'm just going to let it play and listen out for the crowd of, what, tens of thousands of people?
Regrets.
So listen to that. There was actually silence there.
Regrets.
So, I mean, it couldn't be any more indicative of a studio recorded track because we go to pure silence there. I mean, it's very difficult to explain to people that might have thought that this was live how pre-recorded this is. We're listening to a studio track here and we heard them start at the beginning, that flick of just swapping to the track. To answer those people that say everyone knows that this is mimed and that it's not a live vocal, I would say to them, well, why is there so much concentration and so much effort being put into miming this as closely as possible? Because if she couldn't hear the track very clearly, you'd say, well, it doesn't matter because everyone knows it's mimed. Even if you get the timing wrong with trying to sing along, it doesn't matter because everyone knows it's mimed. So just all these little things really do highlight the fact that they're trying to make it look like it is live, and they're doing everything in their power to achieve that.
Much more than this, I did it my way. Yes, there were times.
Oh, hang on, did we actually hear a breath there? Okay, this is another thing I want to throw out there, is that when you're in the studio, sometimes if you're doing comp takes, which is when you go through the song 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, however many times you go through that song, you get each of those takes, and if you're recording it as a comp take, they all go one after the next, after the next, after the next. So it means that one overwrites the next, but it doesn't delete the previous take. So you can go through all of the takes that have been performed in front of the microphone or sung in front of the microphone, and you can select the best parts of each of those 6 tracks. For example, say that you sung a song through 6 times, you take the best part or parts of different bits of those 6 performances.
My way, yes, there were times.
And that's what I'm talking about. I think this is a comp take, an amalgamation of lots of different takes then pieced together.
You, but through it all, when there was doubt, I ate it up.
Is it me, or is there no breathing here? She's not taking... Well, you can't hear any breath going on.
And spit it out. I faced it all. And
Oh, there's a little breath there that you just heard because it was at the end of a note and the beginning of another note in a really tight space. But yeah, again, so what's happening in the studio here, they've probably placed a noise gate on the vocal, which means that anything that is below a particular volume gets removed. You don't hear it. So breathing, if I'm talking now and I breathe, that happened at a lot lower volume than me talking. You might be able to hear my breath, but it's not as loud as this. So it means that, yeah, with that noise gate, I mean, it's literally like a gate. It lets loud noises through and quiet noises it doesn't let through. And you can set it at a particular level. But I am surprised here that they seemingly, this is what it sounds like. It sounds like they have cut her breathing out of it to make it a more pristine sound. I think if you watch this performance, it doesn't quite sit correctly because of the timing that she's a little bit off here and there. Obviously, because it's really difficult to mime to something when you're being filmed this closely. You can get away with it putting the microphone right in front of your mouth and hiding it and bringing your other arm up and all that kind of stuff. But people, or at least the TV crew here, are really zooming in sometimes. But have a look at this again in real time.
I faced it all.
And I'm just going to let this play. So she's already started the like that, and you can see that her mouth is not closed yet. So I challenge anybody to make a sound with their mouth open. It's not possible. So anyway, it just means that she's a little bit too far behind the backing track and the vocal that she's miming along to. And here we have another section where this really heavy pitch correction comes in, and you can see we just squashed to the lines. There, the F sharp 4. I mean, it is so abrupt. And I mean, that the problem is, as I've said in so many other analysis videos, when you pitch correct a vocal, this strictly to A440 standard pitch, and you do it not only twice but 3 times in a row, it just stands out. It just sounds wrong. And considering the speed of the notes, how they are following each other,
I took the blows and did it
So, I mean, I don't mean to laugh. The reason that I'm laughing is because, I mean, that little rundown it didn't register, but it was obviously kind of moved in order to make it more accurate. But, and when I say more accurate, I don't know how accurate it was in the first place. I'm saying getting it on the lines of, A440. I'm not sure why. And my best guess is that because they've done comp takes, it means that at the end she was doing lots of ad-libs. So you've got maybe 6 tracks of ad-libs at the end of this performance in the studio, and the producer's just choosing from those. So when we go up to here, that is fine as an ending, but they've decided to then maybe take another bit of a comp take. See there, the when she goes up like that, you can actually see in real life. So the comes in too early because she can't even mime that in time. So it's something that I don't think she would have done in the studio. I mean, the fact that she physically can't mime it quick enough means that, well, how could she then sing it quickly enough if she can't do it quickly enough to pretend? Yeah, the whoa comes in and she's not even going ooh, ooh, ooh. Yeah, you can't do a whoa. You can't do a whoa with a woo with a wide mouth. So yeah, I think that's just another timing thing that, like I said, it is really difficult to lip sync or mime to a backing track really accurately because you will get the timing wrong. You literally cannot compare the two, a pre-recorded pitch corrected vocal to somebody who is genuinely singing live into the microphone. So when people say that, oh yeah, this is better than Frank Sinatra's version, you've got to see it in the light of Frank Sinatra was actually doing it, and this is like getting a machine to do it for you. If we're talking about the Olympics, archery, say Frank Sinatra has been studying his whole life to be very good at archery, and he hits the target, the yellow in the middle, he gets 10 at 9 out of 10 times, so he gets 10 shots, so he gets like 90 points out of 100, and everyone's applauding, everyone goes crazy, go, wow, that's so amazing. And then another person comes along and they roll on a machine that has a bow and an arrow stuck to it, and then he says, well what's this? He says, oh, this is the next person who's gonna do it, and we're going to calibrate it so that it hits the 10 every time. And he'd say, oh, but no, I've actually trained to do this, so I'm hitting it with my training, not using machine to do it. And they say, oh no, we're going to push the button. So yeah, no, we set it up, we line it up, and then we push the button. So we are pushing the button, so that still counts. And of course they get 100 points because it's calibrated to 10. It never misses. And that's what pitch correction is, especially doing in the studio. You can go off into all these ad-libs because you can correct them. So then when you're miming it, you're never going to miss. And the other thing is, imagine everyone saying to Frank Sinatra, the archer, oh, wow, amazing, giving him all the adulation. But then they give more adulation to the person who pressed the button to shoot it at 10 and say, oh, wow, you're amazing. I can't believe that you're better than that guy because he only got 9 out of 10, whereas you got 10 out of 10. And then the person, rather than saying, oh, but I did use a machine. They say, oh, well, thank you. Yeah, well, you know, it's been a long road, and, you know, I'd like to thank my family, you know, all that kind of stuff. I'm just here to give you the objective facts and point out exactly what happened. And again, I'm not having a go at the artist here. I'm not saying that she can't sing. I'm saying what is happening, that the vocal has been pitch corrected and it's pre-recorded, and that's all we're doing is listening to an MP3. And what I want to do is just take it back, because there was a point here somewhere. So you've got somebody here in the crowd kind of looking up, and it is kind of a look of wonderment, because I think they all down here think it's live. This is the thing that, yeah, for me, it doesn't sit well, that people genuinely think that what they're watching is live and are thinking, oh wow, how amazing is this? But then I think if they announce that, and now for the final performance we're going to play an MP3 of a recording that we've done in the studio, and the singer who did it is going to be miming along to it, and it is pitch corrected. We did pitch correct it in the studio as well to make it as accurate as possible. I think the performance would lose a bit of its shine, potentially, with these kind of people in the audience. And I think these are the athletes that are kind of celebrating at the end. So yeah, for me, as an artist myself, it just doesn't sit well, just pretending to do stuff, but then taking the adulation for it and not saying that, oh no, I didn't do it. It was mimed and you know, pre-recorded and pitch corrected. Nobody official comes out and says, you know, what actually happened and says it how it is. Yeah, apart from me. So here you go. And I'm expecting, again, a lot of people in the comment section will probably send in the troll comments. I'm not having a go at the singer. I'm literally telling you what this performance is. And as I've said at the beginning of the video, if you're watching this and you are offended by it, or you don't like to know this kind of thing, then just don't watch the video. That's why I said it at the beginning, because I am going to tell you exactly what's going on, as has been requested by multiple people, multiple subscribers, for me to point out what is going on in this performance. Anyway, thank you guys for requesting this particular analysis. Keep those suggestions and requests coming in the comment section below. As always, let me know what you guys think, and if you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys at the next one. Rock!